So let's talk about the next session coming up. All of us know that work has been upended in every possible way. Many of us are here actually for the first time in quite a while, but we know that the digital workplace is here to stay, no matter even if we're getting back together in person. Mary Leos is here to join us along with Vishal Brown from NTT DATA, and they're going to talk about the future of remote work, and I think you'll find it quite captivating like I did. All please join.
Hello, everyone. We are really excited to be here in San Francisco with colleagues in person. That's always a lovely change in our life these days. Before we get started, we were listening to the Innovation Research Panel, and we really wanted to thank Mr. Giorgio Scarpelli, because the question was, what are you looking most forward to? And his answer was the integration of the physical and digital with a focus on human-centered design. We couldn't agree more with him. It's a passionate topic for me as we look at the X-verse or experience-verse, immersive technologies, metaverse. Everybody loves that term. And I think what we can all agree on is the last couple of years has accelerated the interest and the adoption of these technologies. So Vishal and I are going to share with you a couple of things. First thing that you're looking at here is an environment that we have built with our team out of Plano, Texas, and it happened because we could not meet in person during 20 and 21, years 20 and 21. We all remember those. So we were challenged with how do we bring forward the IP that we have and the solutions we have? How can we still engage with our clients using technologies that really maybe weren't so mainstream in the ways that we were using them? So this environment is built on Unity, and it's a tool that we use. It's a little bit of a twin of our physical environment in Plano, and then it, of course, has some futuristic areas around industries that we have built out. Vishal's going to dive into, we're using our financial services and insurance industry as he talks about modern workplaces. But before we jump into that, I wanted to set up a little bit about how we're thinking about these topics. And, the comment that Mr. Scarpelli made, I love it, because what we are really here to do is extend the physical world. What is it that we can bring technically to these conversations, people that are remote all around the world? How can we bring this information to them, inspire them to problem solve differently, which we do a lot of in our studio and center in Plano, or if we're working online, bringing in those diverse skill sets and cultural views to solve a problem with our client and hopefully get them thinking about their business environment a little differently. And then, of course, we always want to enhance the user's experience. If we're designing technologies and we're designing solutions and we are not focused on the user of that solution, it's a miss. Our adoption curve isn't going to be quite as steep and quick as we hope it would be. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn it over to Vishal, who's going to take us through what we're doing in the world of modern workplaces.
Thanks for that, Mary. I often think about, we're going to be living in the internet. The way in the next 10 years, when I think about my kids, I have 4-year-olds, and what would hybrid work mean for them as we think about the future of work? And so what we want to talk about today are how are some of these topics that influences the future of work, how we should be thinking about them. So on here, for example, as we think about hybrid working, how do we reconnect with employees and really make them productive and reconnect with the organization? And that's where I think immersive experiences really bring that to the front, and where metaverse type technologies comes into play. How do we augment the way we work and enhance the way we have experiential capabilities? And that's where XR comes in as well. And lastly, as we reconnect with the workplace, we augment the workplace. How do we get support when we do need support in the workplace? And that's where you can see technologies like digital human coming in. So this is kind of the way we would think about that. And the way we would apply those different experiences, it's around these areas here. As you think about immersive experiences, the business case, limitless boundaries. Think about all the channels that you have as business need to tap into this ecosystem. So be that a new sales channel, a new marketing channel, right? A new pipeline of customers that you can now tap into that exists within the metaverse. And what does all roll within that ecosystem? So at least from a future of work perspective, and the items I just mentioned, as we think about the support they'll need in those spaces, immersive collaboration experiences, those are the technology spaces that we can insert ourselves and create value for our clients and for our customers. So with that, if we think a little bit more about some of the partners we've been working with as part of this journey, leveraging NTT Israel, for example, working with the team that builds out Naka, Microsoft HoloLens, and Vive. These are some of the partners we've been working with over the past months and a couple of years to really build out certain platforms, go into specific verticals, FSI, as Mary mentioned before. Author Digital, we recently did a POC with some of our senior leadership to show what that could be in terms of going down a FSI or a manufacturing path. And we have a video at the end that will show you how we're doing this. And it has to take on each one of these different areas that I mentioned before, right? There's, if you're building a digital twin, for example, and we'll have some examples later on that we'll show you, but a digital twin of when you think about the future of a workplace. Or if you're creating an immersive experience for engaging with your employees. So let's go through some of the use case examples that we have here. So digital workplace solutioning and hosting. And you can think about, again, I bring my 8-year-old as an example. Would she be at this event in 10 years? I don't know, right? Would that just be a completely immersive hosted virtual event? And so that's some of the ways you can think about what is the future of work and workplace is. EX and CX design, when folks show up and you're trying to do a recruiting exercise, I know one company, one of our competition, built an onboarding experience for employees, and how we should think about that as well is when you onboard the employee, the first 15 days of onboarding, if you could cut that down, the time to productivity, from 15 days or 30 days or 45 days to 5 days, because their interaction with HR, the way they consume services with IT, shipping them a headset so that way you're reducing the time to productivity by immersing them in the company using things like metaverse and immersive experiences. Learning and skilling, again, going back to the onboarding experience, that's another area where upskilling and retraining your employees, where that becomes important. One of the fun ones, and I think we have Noel in the audience, I told him I'll give him a shout out. So in the XC, you saw we have Digital Human. So just as if you would, and I think a few folks talked about this in previous sessions, if you need support today in your corporate environment or on a manufacturing floor or in a medical setting or a healthcare setting, you could get a Digital Human on your mobile device or walk up to a kiosk and get it that way, or even on your laptop. And that's humanizing the experience you would have when you think about support. But now translate that now into a metaverse setting as well. You still need those support things. You will still need help for, hey, I need to book an airline ticket. I need HR services. I need benefits. Or something is truly broken, right? So you can see how those same support services translate into immersive environments. So that's another way to think about it. And OCM is key. As you think about how you implement change in many organizations, and one of the tough things many organizations deal with as we implement services into an organization, how do you effect that change? And again, doing that through an immersive environment allows that change to be quicker, faster, and gain more adoption. So those are some use case examples of how we're thinking about that. Now, it doesn't become relevant until you make it industry specific, right? So you see here we have manufacturing, automotive, and again, some of these are from from Naka, right? That we're working closely with to build this out. Others like Author Digital, I mentioned that other platform when you looked at our partner ecosystem. So some of these are we're working closely to make sure we verticalize some of these industry solutions.
So Vishal, as we move over to the application of this and the work that your team has been doing, can you talk a little bit about the research and insights that your team has done to get us to this point where we built this POC? How is that? What does that look like?
Yeah, thanks for that. As we talk with clients, right, it's like ChatGPT, right? Metaverse. And so it's one thing to go have a ChatGPT conversation with a client or a metaverse conversation with a client, but what value are you actually bringing to them? How are they monetizing that and delivering value back to the client and the employees that they have that ultimately delivers the outcome for the organization? That's how we have to think about this. So while we have we have that partner ecosystem, we have the client requirements and what would ultimately bring value. Where do we sit in that equation? And so it's us stepping back and going, how can we apply that to specific verticals like manufacturing or healthcare? Where's the technology ready? So for example, you'll see the video, in building out that video and wearing a meta headset, I'm sure a few of you have worn the headsets. They're heavy. And so would you walk around with that all day? Are employees going to have that on for a long time? And so as there's some catch up the technology has to do as well. So weighing those things, the applicability, bringing value to the clients, is the technology ready? Some of those things needs to be fleshed out and really packaged. So when we do present that to a client, we're delivering value.
Yeah. So let's set up the NTT Data's virtual office and how that is being used and the partner team that's been working on this. Would you like to share with us about this?
Yeah, so what we did here is we built out, we wanted to, how could we showcase some of our capabilities and services across different industry solutions? And so what we built out here were some classrooms, training rooms where we can either bring in a client, bring in our whole sales team, and showcase how we can deliver solutions to clients. So what you'll see coming up here next is a live environment of how we went about building that. So I'll kind of do a voiceover as we walk through this. And this is Paige, one of our digital humans, but also a real human. And in here, there's a stage amphitheater setting. And that, to give you an example, just how I would feel like I'm on stage here. The emotions when you're in a virtual setting, you feel like you're on stage when you put on that headset, right? And which is really close to get as close to in person as possible. But you can see the different industry solutions we looked at building out here, be it healthcare, as mentioned before. You probably saw workplace, public sector. You could put in education here. So think about different type of environments you want to build out here to have a client conversation.
So you were telling me that when, so this project, let's start with the timeline. So the project started 10 months ago, 11 months ago?
Yep. Research,
understanding the human that's involved in using this, understanding the technology and the business application of that technology. And then the team started putting together the environments. We started testing it, and you were telling me about 2 weeks ago, we had our executive team all with their Oculus goggles, sitting in that room. So they were in a stadium virtually, and they could see each other. And they were actually experiencing what an environment, a modern workplace environment for our employees might look like. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that went?
Yeah,
what their responses were?
I'll start with the funny part. So when you first enter that room, right, they all think, I don't know if you guys are Star Trek fans, but when you get into the metaverse, you all land on the same spot, and then you kind of walk where you're supposed to go, and everyone was landing on each other. So there's some ethical violations probably we have to sort out. And HR was in the room as part of this experience, so I think we're okay. But it was very immersive, right? So that way they were able to come into that room, have what felt like an in-person conversation, and some tough questions were asked, like, great, let's go do this. This needs to be funded. Where's the budget? And asking senior leadership, great, glad you liked it. And I'm just giving an example here. How are we going to fund this? And so it wasn't a Zoom call at that point. It felt like you asked that person, where's the money? Right? And so that felt like a very different interaction. So again, I think this takes you to, when we think about the future of work, how we interact, how we collaborate, how we work, it brings a level of immersiveness that I think as clients think about increasing productivity, elevating the employee experience, right, those are some of the things we want to communicate in terms of delivering value.
Thank you. All righty. We'll stop the video. We're going to have a quick conversation about, I'm going to go back to our south wall, maybe. And bring it together for you. So our teams have been looking at immersive technologies for a few years. We have, in our environment in Plano, Texas, where their headquarters, we have a large immersion room where we brought in a number of technology components, and we surround the client, we immerse them in the conversation that we're going to have with them during our engagement. And then we started finding out all around the world they have really great studies that are going on around immersive technologies. You know, pick a country, pick a team group of NTT or NTT DATA, and they're working on it. So we started pulling all of that together. And again, the common theme that we found is technology is great. We are technologists. We love to innovate and play with technology. I think we can all agree to that. And we also are accountable while we're looking at the technology, what is the business application of that technology? What is it going to do for our clients? What is it going to do to accelerate our own business? So we can't quite get all caught up in the fun of the technology. We have to be thinking about the business application and the business value. And we never want to dampen the imagination or the creativity. That is so critically important when you're bringing together diverse teams to think about how to problem solve uniquely for our clients and maybe get them, again, thinking a little bit differently about their business world. And then in the very center is that sweet spot that Mr. Scarpelli mentioned. Never forget the human that you're designing for. We have to keep that on our minds. We have to understand their user journeys today. We have to understand where their friction points are. So when we introduce these technologies that we get so excited about, the application is understood, they can see themselves using it, and they can see how it will better their use of whatever the solution is that we're putting out into the market. So with that in mind, Vishal, I have one more question for you. So you've been working on this modern workspace for, let's say, 11 or 12 months. A lot of great work has been done in a very accelerated time frame. What's next? What's on the horizon for you and Rick and team?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think what we want to do next is just make sure there are a few things that are happening, right? One is clearly there's a lot of innovation across the company. And we want to bring those pockets of innovation, but also bring together some of the great work that's already been done, and how do we bring that together and create, I don't want to say offering because that means something specific for us, but create services and capabilities packaged together that brings value to each one of the industry and verticals, right? That makes sense for them. So for the next 3-4 months, I think you'll see us develop our point of view and how we're going to market with these capabilities, how it will influence the modern workplace, and bringing together these different various teams that we have across the globe.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. I think that brings us to close of our session.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.